And welcome to Friday Night Fried, the podcast where we fry on a Friday night. It's your host, as always, Ian Austin. And I'm here with another episode of F1's favourite podcast. On this week's instalment, Walking Dead. I talk about more episodes of Walking Dead. I also review Shock Treatment. And I talk about Event Horizon, maybe. It's going to be happening, and it's coming up in just a few ticks of a lamb's tail. So, just watched Shock Treatment, which I bought on Blu-ray ages ago. It's an Arrow video release, and I first watched it a long time ago, actually, in university. We're having like a drinks evening or something, and someone suggested put Shock Treatment on. And it was a unique experience at the time. I think the majority of people I watched it with didn't enjoy it. And this, by the way, is a long fucking time ago because I'm 37. And I haven't been in university since like 24. Jesus Christ. It's been a long time anyway. So yeah, I mean, it's like crowd I was watching with didn't necessarily vibe on it. And I didn't particularly care for it either, but I found the song so damn catchy and it just stuck with me. And occasionally over the years I'd watch YouTube and I'd see clips of it. And I'd think some of the singing sounded cool. No? And then like a year ago I was in HMB, which is one of my favourite pastimes, and I found an Arrow video version of it for in a buy one, get one free deal. So I got Shock Treatment, and then just now finally rewatched it again. And it's a really weird fucking movie. I'm sure some of you will be aware it's a sequel of sorts to Rock Horror Picture Show, which, side note, I've never actually watched Rock Horror Picture Show all the way through, or if I have, I was very drunk and don't remember it. I obviously know the sort of big songs from it. I've seen clips of them, and it looks cool. But I don't know, it's like, despite the fact that one's more horror themed, it's just never really piqued my interest as much. I don't know, I'm sure I'll watch it at some point. But this, I love Shock Treatment. I know maybe it's in a slightly ironic way because it's not a brilliant movie and there's lots of weirdness to it and not necessarily intentional weirdness, and it's a bit goofy, but it's just a fascinating movie. I think it ties into my love of like the flawed masterpiece sort of aspect of cinema. You know, you'll get something like David Lynch's version of Dune, where I love it, despite the fact that it's a complete mess. It's so much fun, and it's such a specific vision from a specific talent that, like, you just watch it and you just feel it's saying something, and it's like a combination hybrid between what they want, what studio wants, and it's like halfway between, and it's not really satisfying either them or the studio, but it's coming out with something which no one else would make, and no one else really would make something as batshit weird as this. Because it is so weird. They basically predicted reality TV. Back in 1981, it predicted all of that shit and nailed it to the extent where even today it's relevant. Like, all this crap going on in England with bollocks, I'm Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here horse shit, and you watch this and it's basically like they're voting people out. Like, it's reality TV, and it's just, it's so much fun. And I mean, it's not great again, and the plot makes no sense, and I listened to songs not too long, a while back, on off not too long ago. Yes, I listened to songs not too long ago on Amazon. I hang Amazon subscriptions. I used to have that, like my soundtrack on the way to work. And the song's great, but the movie just jumps from set piece to set piece. There's no real plot. The plot they have doesn't make sense. It gets to the end part with the big confrontation scene, and then it just sort of dwindles out. So it doesn't really have an ending. It's kind of a sequel to Rock Horror Picture Show, but apparently it's not. There's not that much continuity between the two of them. There's some weirdness. There's lots and lots of characters, but for a movie which is just about an hour and 40 minutes, there's two main characters. It was probably young guts fatness, not really any plot. The songs are weird. Like, songs are great, but really feels like you get some musicals where songs feel factored into plot, and in this case, it feels a bit more like something like We Will Rock You by Queen, the musical, where the songs are fantastic, but the plot is just background dressing, and it's just like, if they could have got away with not having plot, they would have. There's the songs are fantastic. They don't necessarily always fit what's going on. There's a lot of shifts in characters in songs and character arcs and things like that happen in songs, don't happen outside the songs. So suddenly you'll get a big shift, which is a lot to get used to. And I think it's just a weird movie. So, like, I feel if you give yourself to it, you'll enjoy it. But if you, one, if you don't like musicals, don't watch it. Two, it's best watching it under some sort of substance. I tend to have a sort of bizarre mindset and weirdness anyway, so I can dig something like this. But, you know, there's probably somebody who probably would need something to get you through a movie like this. And it's not very easily available, so it's hard to recommend it in that regard, because I'm someone who loves buying Arrow videos and DVDs, but they're not cheap, and not everyone wants to do that. So it's not, no, I'm not recommending the movie. I had a great time watching it, and I love the songs, although in saying that, some of it is aged really badly. There's like a song in there about how awesome it is being a man, which is, I think it was meant to be intentionally sexist and homophobic, but, you know, hearing like that particular F word in the song, you just go like, it feels, I don't want to censor art, you know, art should be art, problematic and all, but no, it's like, it does really stand out in a way it wouldn't necessarily stood out in the 80s, you know. And there's some non-existent character development going on, which is kind of a lot to get around. But overall, it's a fun movie. It's kind of a weird thing, because it shouldn't be any longer, but it probably could have been. But then again, there wasn't much plot, so it shouldn't be much longer, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I dug it. You know, it's a good movie, and if you can find a copy of it for a relatively cheap price, it's worth watching, or just watch clips on YouTube. And I say that someone who, my movies are on YouTube for free, so, you know, I still want people to pay for them, but, you know, if you don't want to pay for them, you can still watch them. So, you see, using this review of Shot Treatment, say, go watch Bubba Batching on YouTube. You'll enjoy it. Or if you won't, you're not paying for it anyway, so. But Shot Treatment, if you can find a copy of it, give it a watch. Because it's fun. Or if not, just go watch some music. Just go listen to some music on YouTube, because it's cool. You know, there's some really good songs there that actually probably work better out with no context. The context doesn't really add anything to them, you know. Hey, so I've watched the Walking Dead episode 305, and yeah, I vaguely remember watching the post-Laurie dying episodes years and years ago, but man, rewatching them tells me a couple of things. First thing is, and I'm going to be nice here, Andrew Lincoln is an excellent actor. I don't think that'd be said enough. He does a fantastic job at playing... He does a fantastic job at playing the broken side of Rick, who is absolutely broken in this episode, doesn't really say anything. Actually says a couple of words at the end, but mostly just broken grief and abstract terror and fear for the future and rage. Like an all-consuming rage to the extent that his daughter's just been born and his son needs him, and he goes off to murder a bunch of zombies and make sure Laurie's dead, because it turns out that she's dead, but she's not dead, and he has to kill her and stab her stomach a few times, which is really creepy, because, you know, I don't know, maybe he doesn't realise he's got a daughter, because he went batshit saying it in the last episode. But just isn't that Rick is broken thoroughly broken in every single way. And it's very, very sad. The flip side being, this is kind of what Walking Dead does, where you start realizing it's not really about the plot or the story per se, it's character. It's very much character studies, because this entire stuff with Rick could have been a 10-minute section of an episode. It didn't need to be a whole episode, because nothing really happens by the end. You get a phone call in prison, which is strange. And then cuts to black. That could be like, if this was a story-driven show, like something like Lost, that would be like maybe a few minutes of time, or you could accomplish the same for that amount of time. Walking Dead's focus is a character study, which is weird because it's dealing with zombies, so it's much more stirring in that regard. And it's the same thing's true of Governor and Andrew and Michonne, because like that story hasn't really developed at all in the past batch of episodes. And here Michonne finally leaves, but like, you could have done that in one episode, the entire story in one episode. But Walking Dead seems to be much more methodically paced, which is good. I mean, it's still fascinating to watch, and it's very well acted, but it kind of has the vibe of wanting to be an indie sort of experience, in terms of the characterization, giving actors more to work with, but the writing isn't great. Case in point, Governor, they've already played their cards with him, So it's like, we're not dealing with the ambiguity of the situation. They're relying on trope that we know more than characters do. But the problem with that is that doesn't really, in this case, add much tension. It just makes Andrew look stupid, because everything about Governor is really obvious, that he's manipulative and all that. And maybe it ties into her character, because she bought into Shane's crap from season 2, and she's buying into this, but if you're talking about long-term character development, characters should learn from previous situations. So she should learn from the fact that Shane was manipulating her, and bear that in mind here. But I guess after daring all of that, she's just looking for someone to look after her, which again goes in contrast with all of her character development, which didn't want being coddled or anything. Then got the other stuff with Governor Michonne, where Michonne seems to be the only character in the show who has a fucking clue what's going on. Seems to always have mindset of, this isn't quite what it seems. And the other fact is that maybe it's because we haven't, or certainly I haven't lived in some zombie pandemic, but Woodbury's kind of a shithole, If conceivable way, right down to the fact they have zombie gladiator fights, and Governor excuses it with, their teeth are gone, so they can't do anything. It's like, we've seen zombies, walkers rip people's guts open with their hands. Like, these guys catch you, they would do damage to you. That is a fact, That is going to happen. And yeah, so the episode's kind of deals with two factors. It deals with Rick's descent in madness and Michonne's wanting to leave Woodbury. And it's, don't get me wrong, I'm still enjoying it, because fun's the wrong word, but I like the fact that characters are the focus. Although it's kind of stupid. It's like, at times it goes into like fetch quests more than anything, where like it's like, we need to get formula for the baby, and they conveniently find some formula, because of course they have to, because Walking Dead is, that baby's probably going to be around for a while, being an important character. No spoilers, please. So you can't, if you're going to have Laurie give birth to a baby, no fucking show on American TV is going to curve a baby, after it's been born. Well, maybe a couple, but generally they're not going to do that. Same way Laurie didn't have the abortion, which I know it's a complicated topic, but in this sort of situation, her having kids was really, really safe-ish. At least, if they found something like Woodbury, yeah, that would make sense, because right now it's like they conveniently find supplies, but that baby is not going to survive in that prison. There is no way that baby can survive in that prison without its birth mother. Is she weird? Because of course she weird, but like that's fucking ridiculous. And other thoughts, yeah, I mean, I want the rip to be press start and be over, but I know it's going to last for 4 or 5 more episodes before he finally goes, okay, I get it. It's going to be like the equivalent of 1 TV act's worth of character development each episode for like 4 episodes, which is kind of annoying, but at the same time, it makes sense. But it's kind of one of those things about TV. It feels like it'll go on too long, but in real life it will go on even longer. So, but when you're watching it on TV, it's frustrating because you want things to happen, and in Walking Dead, things don't necessarily happen very quickly. It's more about the actors and characters. But dear God, man, like, don't whitewash how awful Laurie was as a person and character. Jesus Christ. And yeah, I mean, other things like Glenn saying we should have killed all prisoners on site, and Herschel giving him a nod. He's like, what? Like, that's fucked up. You know? Like, the prisoners didn't kill Laurie. Laurie chose to have a fucking baby in an apocalypse, and then went into labour, and for some reason F1 group wasn't taught how to do basic fucking medical treatment. Like, you think that would be one of the first things they'd be taught to do, right? Okay, Laurie's pregnant, we're in prison. Okay, now Herschel's going to go over with every one of you how to do this. Because you know you'll get trapped in a room with someone like Maggie or fucking Carl or something. You know? It's like, this is going to happen. The worst things always happen to you, people. Assume for the worst. And then there's Carol. Where the fuck's Carol gone? She ran out, but like, where's she going to get to? You know she's not dead. There's no corpse. Oh, and the other thing, they're talking about T-Dog, about how nice person he was. Can I just say, you needed to show us this, and not just in the last episode, because that dude nearly died because he cut his artery open on a fucking exhaust pipe. And you're telling me he was a nice, important member of the group? Look, you know, he wasn't. He could have been. He's a good actor. He could have been if you gave him something to fucking do. You didn't give him anything to do. You gave him nothing to work with, and as a result, he had one episode, his last episode, where he actually did anything, and then that's it. And that's questionable that you did that, but you did it. So don't turn around and say, oh, we loved him, he's a important member of the group, here's all shit he did off camera. It's like, he sure as shit didn't do anything on camera. My only real memory of T-Dog is him, as I just said, slicing his artery open on a fucking exhaust pipe and almost bleeding to death, and they need scrambled to get him antibiotics. No? And this after he said, Dale, let's just drive off. But then Glenn's sort of like, oh, he saved me thousands of times. I'm like, you want to drive off, Glenn? You want to drive off in season 1 when Frank Darabont was running the show? Was that... No, season 1, season 2. Maybe that's season 2. Anyway, you want to drive off... Maybe it's after Frank Darabont. Maybe Frank Darabont wanted to make T-Dog's main character, but after he got fired for fucking up the schedule, he decided, oh, fuck it. T-Dog will be representation of Frank Darabont, nearly dying under the pressure of walking through a fucking car. No, I'm kidding. Frank Darabont makes Shawshank Redemption and Mist. He's good in my book. No. Anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. That's Walking Dead 305. I just want to shout out to David Morrissey, who's, my God, he's so good at governing that you forget that it's a really, really, really badly written character, you know? Anyway, I'll be back with something more in a second. So you get another Walking Dead episode review this week. You get episode 6 of season 3 as well. And this episode basically continues the Rick has gone batshit insane storyline that F1 was so infatuated with from the previous episode. Angela Lincoln again gets a chance to do some really good acting. If you're asking if anything actually happens in this episode, not really. It's split between the Ritz, Andrea stories again. So we get lots of Andrea at Woodbury and get bits and pieces of Rick. And does a lot happen? Well, no, not really. I mean, it's very much like, no, I said in the last bit that it was a bit different for Lost, but in actuality, it's quite similar to Lost because this episode really slows down plot and seems to be devoted to Rick and Andrew's characters, as do most of the episodes this season. Most of the other actors aren't really getting that much work with. Daryl got a bit of backstory here, but really, I mean, it's the Rick and Andrew show. And again, Governor, we get bits and pieces of him and his ambiguity. Is that window now? If there was ever any ambiguity, it's completely and utterly gone. They try and paint him as a conflicted figure, sort of like, I had something, blah, 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 but not particularly. Mel is obviously there, played by Michael Rooker, who always does a good job, but there's not much to him. And, I mean, character most people would relate to is probably Michonne, because she is useful. She actually seems to understand what show she's in, and her reactions seem somewhat metatextual because she is exasperated by how stupid all of these people are. We get Maggie and Glenn, who forget how to be competent and are taken hostage and taken to Woodbury. Governor's okay. The governor's okay with using them as prisoners, I guess. I don't know. Like, Andrea saves the town of Woodbury from Biter and is shot at by 18-year-old, I guess, whatever, with a crossbow. Sort of like, I could have killed him, despite the fact that she missed twice, at close range. I guess people of Woodbury aren't very good with weapons. And yeah, I mean, apart from that, nothing really happens. Rick gets over his breakdown, but then has another breakdown. But then gets over that. He apparently thinks someone's actually running prison. Herschel leaves ambiguous. I mean, he kind of makes a suggestion that no one's ringing prison, but then, he doesn't do that thing, telling Rick he's insane and that no one's calling. He just sort of like goes, Rick, I'll sit for you for a bit, Rick. Anything else? Daryl finds Carol. It rhymes, like poetry. And at the end of the episode, Michonne, who... Actually, that's the thing that got me, because, like, Mel and his boys hunt down Michonne, but it feels like we missed an episode, because why would they do that? Clearly, Governor doesn't want people to leave Woodbury, but it's just a weird thing. Like, it doesn't quite match with how the last episode ended. It feels a bit like Lost, where it'd be weeks between episodes, and they'd act like it'd been weeks, despite the fact that it literally only been hours since last episode. Like, in season 1, where they lose Charlie... And then, like, season 15 is literally set, like, 2 days later. They lose Claire. Episode 15 set 2-3 days later. And Claire returns. And they all act like she's been gone for months. It's like stuff like that. It just doesn't really work in TV series. And Rick, at the end, thinking he's tripping balls when he sees Michonne. Very hard to say. Michonne does figure out the, if you wear zombie guts, you'll blend in with the zombies trick, which she learns off slicing over a zombie's chest. And I mean, I know a lot of people, it's like, why wouldn't they just wear that all the time? But, that would be disgusting, and you would be very sick very quickly. So, I mean, not a great episode for Walking Dead. The Governor and Andrea make fuck, which is, something, I guess. And yeah, Michonne keeps proving that she's the only useful character in the show, but other than that, it's pretty dull. I mean, even by the show's usual standards, nothing happened this episode. Michonne found prison, but, like, that just underscores how close they are to Woodbury, and if they're that close, wouldn't, like, the Woodbury team have driven by and military have driven by at some point? Like, It's just always questions. It just goes back to season 2, where they're right by fucking prison when season 2 ended, and season 3 set 8 months later, and they somehow hadn't gone to prison. It's like, why wouldn't you go there straight away? Why wouldn't Woodbury be based there? Like, they could have taken prison. It's like the fact that there's a place in Atlanta they could have gone to community-wise, but somehow didn't find. It's like, it's a bit weird and a bit incredulous. But Governor's a play weird, and he's tense, and he'll be a good villain, I guess. But some of the writing's really fucking all this week. Bring back Frank Darabont, or don't. I don't know. He doesn't come back anyway, so it's all moot. Anyway, I guess 2.5 out of 5. Okay, well. Next up on podcast is probably Prince of Darkness, unless I forget to watch it. Anyway, that'll be coming up next. I think I may have reviewed Event Horizon before, but since season 7 started and I'm trying to appeal to a new audience, I'll talk back again. Event Horizon is one of my favourite movies. A very ordinary podcast this week. Event Horizon is one of my favourite movies. And I don't say it's one of the best movies ever made, because it's not. Nobody say, no, in terms of my favourite movies, it's the best movie. It's just, for me, it's the most fun. It's a really, really, really fun movie. It's rooted in some goofy 90s-ness. Now, I don't know if some of you were even alive in the 90s, but it was a very strange period of cinema. The 80s was sort of, as Tarantino puts it, was sort of try and play more of a, conservative mindset, I guess you could say, with like, inclusiveness and a bit of censorship and a bit of like political correctness to an extent. And 90s was the inverse of that, with the indie movement being creating more irreverent sense of cinema, and blockbusters try and catch up. Hence movies like Kong Air, which had an indie dream cast in a big silly action movie. Hence Nicolas Cage's action movie roles. Hence the way that the indie movement impacted on Hollywood as a mainstream and really shook things up, and then really pushed the boundaries of cinema and American cinema, like comedic cinema, I guess you could say. So Pulp Fiction changing how people saw American movies. And Event Horizon kind of falls into that a little bit, because it's a big, brash, dumb sci-fi horror movie, but it's definitely got sort of an indie mindset, because if you actually watch Event Horizon, in the midst of goofiness, because they didn't have budget they wanted to have, it's a very, very, very irreverent movie. It's got a lot of comedic elements to it, a lot of funny jokes, a lot of things which seem a bit more improvised, and the crew's dynamic is particularly interesting to watch, because it's so quick and so effectively managed that you almost forget that Event Horizon is actually a very well-written movie. Now, there are lots of good elements to it that some people think sidetrack from the point, but I think it does a great job of pointing out that this crew is tight-knit and friendly and gets on with each other in a non-sort of forced way. It feels very genuine. Part of that's down to the acting through, but it's just a vibe it puts out. These are people on a spaceship. Now, one can draw the obvious comparison to Alien, where it's a bunch of truckers in space who stumble upon something they don't understand, and some sort of weird mythology ensues from there. And Event Horizon's a bit different. These are soldiers, and it's a bit more aliens, I guess you'd say. But these people out there who are just trying to do a job and pulled into this bizarre universe and concepts, and try and deal with those and make quips at the same time. Now, is Event Horizon as good as Alien or Aliens? Well, I'd say I enjoy it more than Alien, but less than Aliens. But I think Alien's a better movie. But I think it goes back to what someone told me about, well, actually, what I came up with. That's no regular me came up with, saying that the new Doom movie is far, far, far better than David Lynch version. David Lynch version, yeah. But David Lynch version's a far more interesting movie. And I think that's the point. You watch something like New Dune, it's very competent, it's very coherent, it's very well acted, it's well paced and all of that. But the David Lynch version, despite being something that David Lynch has long since disowned, has a vibe to it, a unique personality, and a unique sensibility to it that was actually so good that they stole parts of it for the new movie. And it goes to show, it's like, you don't have to make something which is like technically brilliant. If you make some personality, Ben Horizon's lots of personality, it will resonate with people, and it will be a bit flawed, a bit messy, a bit weird, a bit silly, but I think most cinema should be aiming for that. You don't want to make perfect, streamlined, cookie-cutter stuff. You want to make something which is going to have a personality. You're going to think, like, that's cool. I mean, when you're growing up, you know, you have mindset sort of like, the only person I'm going to be with has to look like this, or this. And you always hear a mantra of like, oh, she's got a great personality, and discount is being like, you know, well, that's not what we want. But ultimately, you would want a good personality because you have to live with this person. So why wouldn't you want them to have personality and be funny and witty? Ben Horizon's very much like that. It won't win in beauty contests, but it'll tell better jokes than the alternative. And I don't really care for dry sci-fi per se. I prefer sci-fi to have a bit of life and a bit of kick to it, and Ben Horizon definitely has that. It's got a lot of horror aspects. It's got some great dialogue. Like, fuck this ship. It's one of my favourite lines of all time. Now, obviously, you do have to start thinking about special effects become goofy, and they clearly didn't have money they wanted to have, and the movie's been cut down a lot, although I disagree with the mindset people going, oh, I wish they kept all that original video stuff in the horror stuff, you know, which was originally more disgusting. The studio said no. But I think, actually, to be honest, despite the fact that there are parts of the movie which clearly jump way too fast through the plot, as it is, I actually think they did a good job cutting that stuff out because, you know, we see enough, but spending like 5 minutes watching that sort of rough cut footage would make it into much more of an exploitation movie, and I don't think material really works for that. I mean, you can make something which focuses on more of the gore, of course, but I think Ben Horizon works because it's got the gore, but it's also a generally funny script with some really good acting and some tension. You know, it seems to be a movie which works on multiple different levels, while also some people not working all. But I really like Ben Horizon. I think it's fun. I think you should definitely go back and watch it. And it looks pretty good on Netflix. Not perfect. You know, see a few scenes still be seen. But overall, yeah, really good movie. And Ben Horizon on Netflix. Yeah, fuck that shit. You know? And another episode is done. Well, that was interesting. I don't know if I love this week's one. I like The Walking Dead because I'm trying to get more into it, and Michonne's a badass. And talking about shark treatment's quite cool. And obviously, Event Horizon is one of my favourite movies. But overall, it was a great episode. I don't really give a shit. So there you go. Anyway, I shall see you guys next week for another episode of Friday Night Fright, where I might finally cover The Menu, Violent Night, and some other stuff. Also, if you can, go watch The Offer. It's a show on Paramount Plus. It's the making of Godfather. It's like a fictionalized version, black, and it's really, really, really good. Like an actual good TV show. And also, I got loads of other horror movies I should be watching, so I'm sure I'll be covering them soon. But till next time, remember, life is beautiful, and so are you.